All right, y'all. So this is video 6, and it was supposed to be posted last week because this is week 7 for the videos. But, giving myself grace and learning what I can and cannot take on a daily basis. All right, y'all. So when I left off, I was saying that Jamarcus was moving in with us in my parents' house, that, only my sister's name was on the lease. And so I was sleeping in Kay's room. And when Jamarcus moved in, there wasn't much floor space. So I just joined Kay on his bed and Jamarcus slept on the floor. There was a really embarrassing moment that happened, and I don't even think that, embarrassing is the word for it, because it was deeper than embarrassment. So we didn't have our own room. So I told Jamarcus that, I didn't want to sleep with him until we got our own spot. But I guess one day he was just really wanting to do it. So he locked the door. And then what did Kendrick do? Kendrick unlocked the door. And then that was just a super embarrassing moment for me. I'm sure Kay felt embarrassed. I don't know how Jamarcus felt. All I know is I told him to get off of me, and then I just walked outside and sat on the doorstep, super, super sad, just embarrassed. And, Jamarcus just stepped outside for a minute just to peek at me. Then he went back inside. He never knew what to say, nor what to do with me. I remember that I would mention to him that, I just really needed a place. And he responded, those things take time. He even stated that getting a rental could take up to 5 years. I told my grandmother this, and she stated that that wasn't true, which it certainly is not. I recall one day not hearing from him all day, and I really thought something was wrong. And I think this happened about twice. And when he finally did reach out, he told me that he had fell asleep at his friend's house, which we know now, of course, definitely wasn't true. He was somewhere else. Now, that was just a really bad time. I'm so glad I'm out of 2017. He and I would argue a lot, and he'd rarely spend time with me. There'd be times I'd be trying to chill with him, and he'd just up and go to his grandmother's house when she called him to do something. I believe that Kay would spend the night at my brother's house sometimes, and I just remember just trying to kiss on Jamarcus and whatever. One morning at like 6 a.m., and his grandmother called him, asking questions about her TV. And then, he just pulled away from me to just go and help her with her television. And when I complained to him about his actions, he stated that I was jealous of an old lady. Those were his exact words. Well, I'm laughing about it now. Praise Jesus. I recall one particular evening wanting to spend time with him. He was just sitting outside in the car. I was in Kay's room. He wasn't paying me any attention. And, I was texting him, and I just became frustrated. And I told him to just stay outside forever. I believe he had already been speaking with his grandmother about maybe living with her, because that night he did so easily. He just called his sister, and he packed his things, and his sister came and picked him up. His family were not kind people. I don't know what he would tell them about me. I mean, I know he told them crazy things about me, but he certainly would tell me things about them. His mother passed when he was around 14, and he stated that he received some money from her passing, and his sister allowed him to live with her. But at 17, when the money stopped flowing in, she put him out. And he asked his grandmother if he could live with her at that time, and she responded, "I'd rather your fat ass be homeless than live with me." So this is just a very terrible thing to say to anybody, especially a teenager, especially your grandson. So, he moved into a homeless shelter for a while, and, his family was very toxic. I remember even when I met his grandmother and his father, they both said something about my weight. Jamarcus's father was in jail his whole life. Jamarcus met his dad, after we got married. Jamarcus was 27, meeting his father for the first time. And when his father met me, he was like, "She's as big as you. Y'all are meant for each other." And I don't even mind if y'all laugh about that, because it doesn't offend me anymore. I don't even recall what his grandmother said to me when she met me, but she said something about my weight, and it was just very rude and disrespectful. And I posted about it on social media, and Jamarcus said something to me about the post. You know, basically he thought that I was being disrespectful. Like, being elderly is no good reason for you to disrespect people and to be unkind. So older does not always mean wiser, nor does it always mean more loving. So, he moved in with his grandmother and the car remained with me. But he told me that, if I wanted to be with him, I'd have to let him keep the car so that he could drive himself to and from work. He said that, he needed the car so that he could save up money for us to get a place. But he was just messing with me. He wasn't trying to get us a spot. Because months later, he told me that he wasn't trying to put me in a place. He was like, well, actually, I wasn't trying to put you in a house because I knew you weren't going to help with bills, which is a complete lie. But I gave him the car and we wouldn't see each other much. There'd be days when we didn't see each other at all. Even though he lived like maybe no more than 20 minutes away. He would always claim to be, too tired after work to come over. And I used to really obsess over ice cream. And he texted me one day asking if I wanted some ice cream. And, I was missing him. So when I saw the text, I just called him and he didn't answer. He texted that he didn't have time to just spend time with me, but that he asked if I wanted some ice cream because he wanted me to know that he was thinking of me, which was just a super manipulative thing to say and do. I said, no, sir, I don't want any ice cream. And he didn't come over. And I recall getting frustrated with him not spending time with me. And so I was like, I'm just going to take the car back. So I had Jay drive me to his grandmother's to get the car. And when I got there, he was just on the porch talking to his brother. So apparently he wasn't too tired after work to talk to some people. So I got the keys from him and I tried to embrace him, but he just pulled back in a really dramatic way. He actually recoiled. And then I was going to start a job. I worked that job for one day. It was a really bad job. And I just, I texted him up, asking, oh, can you help me buy some work pants? And he was like, well, you got the car. You got what you wanted. I in no way had anything I wanted. But I think the car was all he wanted. His grandmother helped him get a car. He didn't have it long because it was having mechanical issues. And then he told me that he believed that I worked roots on him to cause him to have to lose the car. And later on, he would say that he believed I worked roots on him to cause him to develop diabetes. I don't know anything about working roots. And if you saw the way this man would eat, you would know why he developed diabetes. Yeah, I recall when he first moved in with his grandmother, I asked him if I could move in with them, and he stated that his grandmother doesn't let married people live together in her home. I had a mentor at the time named Shayna, and Shayna said that, maybe his grandmother didn't say that. Maybe Jamarcus was just saying things. Later on, when I was at his grandmother's house, I wanted to ask her if she said that, but I just really couldn't bring myself to. I was afraid to ask because I felt that asking would make Jamarcus look bad. And I cared about his reputation, even though, he certainly did not care for mine. So our power was getting turned off again, and I was, texting my sister, my older sister, Talisha, asking if I could move in with her, and, she allowed me to move in. It's really odd that Jamarcus didn't want me at his grandmother's house. And I just also remember our first anniversary came around and I got him some things. I told him he didn't have to get me anything. But, of course, that would have been nice, Later on, I was kind of complaining about it because I did want something. And, he just came and he just took me to a hotel. It wasn't romantic at all. And y'all, he just really didn't treat me well, like at all. I know, like when he wanted to sleep with me, he would just come and he would drive me to some back road. And then after 30 seconds, it'd be over. And I remember communicating to him that I certainly was not satisfied in that area. And all he stated was that, he was fine because he was, in a room, in his own room at his grandmother's house, and he was just using his hands. So it's good to know he felt super comfortable, in a room, in a bed at his grandmother's house while I am on my brother's floor. And I just never let myself go through anything like that ever again. So yeah, I had moved in with Talisha and I was sleeping in her living room. I stayed at her house maybe 1 or 2 months. I really wanted my own spot, and I recall asking Jamarcus what he was doing with his money, and he stated that, he was buying tires. It was always tires. The car always needed tires and gas so that he could drive back and forth to whatever security position he was working. I had told him, well, if you just, if you're spending so much on gas, then I'll just buy gas and, you save whatever you can. I'll just put gas in the car. I recall my job had given me a bonus. It was $150. After taxes, it was $135. I cashed the check and I showed him the funds. I was like, yes, this will start my savings for a place. And he just looked at it and smiled and he was like, I need that for gas. And I remember just saying, I was like, but I worked so hard. And he was like, yeah, but I need it. So I just threw the money into the dashboard and then I stormed into my sister's house, in a frustrated fit of tears. And all he did was drive off. He just simply drove off, probably to spend it on one of the prostitutes. But we got a spot soon after. Talisha had connected me with her landlord. He had a spot for rent that was $530 a month. And, I was on the phone with him and I was like, I have this much. Can I go ahead and give you this much and move in? And then I'll have the rest by so-and-so time, just trying to do a little payment plan with him. And he told me no. And I just felt so down. And the landlord's name was Kevin. Somehow Kevin connected with Jamarcus. He called me back and Kevin was like, oh, I spoke with your husband. I told him you sounded sad. And he said that Jamarcus responded, she probably was. I know Jamarcus was nonchalant in his response. I could hear him saying that. Like no emotion in his voice. But Kevin worked out an arrangement with me where I could just pay him half, like immediately, and the other half within a week or so. And then he would allow us to sign the lease. So I borrowed $500 from my brother, Darte. And yep. I got the water in my name and Jamarcus got the power in his name. So I had saved over, $500 myself. And yep, Jamarcus didn't help with any of the move-in fees. To his credit, if there was a fee to get the power turned on, he did pay that. So we had a spot and this was September 2017. Jamarcus and I had been married for 1.5 years at this point, which was a really long time, to be married to someone before getting a place that only cost maybe $1,100 to move in. I mean, during this time, could the Lord have been trying to tell me something? Well, y'all, that's part 6. In part 7, I will talk about my atrocious experience living with him. I love you guys. God bless, and I'll speak with y'all soon.